Now, before we go in here, anybody want to guess what this is all about here in the room that we're in? Well, there's a lot of stuff kind of crammed in here, but really, when you look at it, there's not a whole lot of information to be gained by looking at it, is there? I mean, you know, there's just, you know, look in both cases, there's just a whole bunch of stuff. You would maybe, well, we kind of turn this a display, right? This is a display that we have of recently acquired objects that have come into our collections. Now, museums get collections, get the things that they have through several different means. Probably the most common is we receive our material culture through donations. People who are generous donate things to us. People who have had somebody pass away, they just can't bring themselves to throw out their belongings, so what do? They call up the local historical society and tell us about it and see if we want it first. In a lot of cases, we do want it. But we just can't accept everything. We have to really try to stick with things that help us tell the story of our community. That's what the Ross County Historical Society is about. We're here to help tell the story of this community, this county, this part of Ohio. So things that are from Timbuktu, we, you know, unless they were items that were, you know, cherished possessions of a real important person, maybe, you know, chances are we'd probably turn those type of items down, or maybe direct the donor or the person offering them to us to another museum that whose purpose would accept those type of objects. Now, this is a display where we are now, and a display is basically a loose collection of objects. There's no real interpretation, no real story being put forward by the objects in those cases, other than they're just there, and we're saying thank you to the donors. And when people give us things, we do, right after the accession, all the paperwork's done, we bring them out here and put them in this room for a while before placing them in storage. And most collection items in museums are in storage. Maybe only a quarter of what we have is out on exhibit at any given time. But it is a way of thanking and acknowledging the donors. Now, we're going to come over into this room, and this is something different. This is an exhibit. And does anybody want to put forth a definition for an exhibit?
Maybe it tells a story or tells like about the objects that you're showing. Maybe it
Correct.
Has information.
That is correct. Anybody have anything to add?
Or the things kind of go together.
That is correct.
Related to one another.
That is correct too. Anybody else have anything else they want to add? Well, just let me say, you're both right. And to add to that, an exhibit is a structured assembly of objects or material culture, arranged and designed to communicate a specific message. So an exhibit is a display where you're learning something through the material culture that's in that display. The display might be more like you'd see in a department store window. You know, well, that's a nice set of mannequins with clothing. Maybe we can go in the store and buy something that looks just like it, but you're not really learning anything else. An exhibit, you are learning something from it. Let's come in here. Museums have several different types of collections. Their main collections are the better artifacts, usually the larger of the various collections they might have, but they're the better artifacts that are used for exhibits, and in some cases also for loaning to other museums who may need to have a particular item to help tell a story in an exhibit they're doing. This exhibit where we are now is more than just a display of loose artifacts. It's a grouping of artifacts that are put together with the intention of trying to tell a story. And the story being told in this exhibit this is the first capital of Ohio, Chillicothe. It's an exhibit that talks about the founding of Chillicothe and the founding of the state of Ohio, and who some of the people were and what their lives were like. This very first case we're looking at here is just kind of an illustration of what we're talking about. It is an assembly of similar items that are put together to help tell a story of what the lives were like for the first settlers that settled here after the area was open for settlement following the Northwest Ordinance of 1787 and the Greenville Treaty of 1795, which permitted the settlement of this area. And it was a very rough place. I mean, it was a wilderness. And the people that came here had to bring everything they needed to survive here. And we have some objects that represent the tools, the weapons, the things that they needed to survive here. And as historians, we look at that and we not only find out about what they brought with them, but we learn a lot about the technological advancements of that time period. For instance, the rifle, which is probably the most prominent thing in the case, is a flintlock rifle, which at the time was state of the art. It looks very archaic to us today, but if you had something like that, you were in pretty good shape. And it wasn't used for killing other people. Flintlock rifle like that was an instrument for hunting. It was not a weapon of war. And hunting was a very important thing to do back then because we didn't have a lot of livestock, and if you wanted to be able to feed your families, you might have to go out into the wilderness and hunt your own food. The other things that I wanted to mention briefly, some of the tools that are in there, looking at how they were made tells us a lot about the society at that time. All of the tools, for instance, the axes, the adze, even the drill, they're all made from cast iron, forged iron, made by blacksmiths, and with wooden handles. Very, very simple, handmade things. But that is what was available. And at that time, if you needed tools, you didn't go to a hardware store. You went to a blacksmith and told the blacksmith what kind of tool you needed, and he would make it for you. You know, that tells us a lot about what their lives were like at that time.